In the sprawling neon-lit corridors of the new San Francisco Medical Center, the air was thick with the tension of anticipation and uncertainty. The facility, a beacon of interstellar medicine and research, was abuzz with the news of the imminent arrival of an alien visitor, an unprecedented event that had every department on high alert. Dr. Michael Harris, a neuroscientist known for his pioneering work in neurosynchronization technology, was not particularly thrilled about the diversion from his usual routine. His research was critical, demanding, and above all, required a level of concentration that didn't afford interruptions, especially not of the intergalactic kind. Yet, there he was, waiting in a specially prepared room that had been equipped with the most advanced medical and neuroconnective technology Earth had to offer. Elara, the Valerian whose life now hung by a thread, was nothing like Michael imagined. Her arrival was less ceremonial and more clinical, rushed through the hallways with a quiet urgency that suited the gravity of her condition. She was tall and ethereal, her skin shimmering subtly under the hospital's bright lights, reflecting an array of soft pastel hues. Her eyes, wide and luminous, scanned the room and its occupants, a visible strain betraying her calm exterior. "Dr. Harris," she greeted, her voice a harmonious blend that seemed to resonate slightly after she finished speaking, as if the air itself was reluctant to let go of her tone. "Miss Elara, I've been briefed about your situation," Michael replied, extending a hand out of courtesy rather than necessity. Her hand was cool and smooth, the contact sending a faint shiver up his arm. Without wasting another moment, Michael led Elara to the neurointerface chair, a piece of technology that looked more like a throne from a science fiction movie, equipped with sensors and neural connectors designed to map and interact with brain activity. "As I understand it, we have 5 days to achieve synchronization," Michael began, his tone clinical yet not unkind. "Your physiology is fascinating, but the disease you described doesn't leave us much room for error." Elara nodded, her expression solemn. "My people have tried various treatments, but none have succeeded. It's believed that the unique neural patterns in humans might hold the key to stabilizing the rapid degeneration I'm experiencing." The stakes were clear, and as Michael adjusted the settings on the interface, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the task ahead. The device hummed to life, its screens flickering with streams of data as it began its initial scan of Elara's brain. The first connection attempt was critical. It would set the foundation for either success or failure. Michael watched the readings intently, adjusting parameters as he went. Elara remained perfectly still, her eyes closed, breathing measured. Suddenly, alarms blared. The readings spiked erratically, an indication of a neural rejection. Michael's hands moved quickly, shutting down the connection to prevent any potential damage to Elara's neural pathways. She opened her eyes slowly, pain evident in her gaze. "Is everything all right, Dr. Harris?" "We encountered a problem with the synchronization," Michael admitted, frustration edging his voice. "Your body is rejecting the neural interface, almost as if it's treating it like a foreign invader. We need to recalibrate and try a different approach." Elara nodded in understanding, her face composed yet pale. "What are our options?" "We learn from every attempt," Michael reassured her. "I'll adjust the neural signatures and dampen the interface's output. We can't afford to be aggressive. It has to be a gradual alignment." Determination settled over them both, a silent pact to beat the odds that were stacked so heavily against them. As Michael prepared for the second attempt, the reality of their situation sank in. They were not just fighting for a scientific breakthrough, but for Elara's very life, with only 5 days left on the clock. In the secure confines of Michael's advanced neurolab, tucked away beneath the bustling streets of New San Francisco, the atmosphere was thick with the electric buzz of high-tech equipment and the faint hum of the city above. The lab was a fortress of solitude for Michael, filled with cutting-edge technology and screens displaying streams of complex data. Here, he felt in control, a sharp contrast to the chaotic unpredictability of dealing with an alien disease. Elara sat quietly in the neurointerface chair, her expression composed yet visibly strained from the ongoing attempts to synchronize her alien neural patterns with the human-designed interface. Michael studied the data from their previous attempt, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This won't be like anything we've tried before," Michael said, breaking the silence. "Your body's initial rejection of the interface isn't just a setback. It's a clear indication that we need a completely different approach. I'm thinking of using a phased introduction of neural signals, easing your system into synchronization." Ilera nodded, her luminous eyes reflecting a mix of resolve and fatigue. "I trust your judgment, Dr. Harris. My people's technology is advanced, but your human ingenuity might be what saves me." As they prepared for another trial, the lab security alarm suddenly blared to life, the piercing sound slicing through the concentrated silence. Michael rushed to the security monitors, his heart pounding as he saw a group of hostile figures attempting to breach the lab's entrance. "They're from an anti-alien faction," Michael muttered, recognizing the insignias displayed brazenly on their clothing from recent news broadcasts. They've been a thorn in the side of the Earth-Valerian Alliance. Without a moment's hesitation, Ilera stood, her earlier fatigue replaced by a sharp alertness. "I can help defend this place," she declared, her voice steady. Michael looked at her, surprised but grateful. "All right, let's do this together." Using a combination of Michael's knowledge of the lab's security systems and Ilera's quick thinking, they managed to activate the lab's internal defenses, sending a shockwave that temporarily incapacitated the intruders. The police were quick to respond, and the attackers were taken into custody. The crisis had pulled Michael and Ilera together, a shared adversity that acted as a catalyst, deepening their burgeoning alliance. Back at the interface, Ilera took her place once again, a new determination set in her features. "Let's continue," she said, her voice firm. Michael adjusted the settings on the interface, reducing the intensity of the neural signals. As the connection initiated, the data on the screens began to stabilize, showing promising signs of compatibility. "We're making progress," Michael announced, a relieved smile breaking through his usually stern demeanor. "Your body isn't rejecting the interface this time. It seems the slow and steady approach is working." Ilera's relief was palpable, a weight lifting from her shoulders. "What you did today, not just with the interface, but helping defend your lab, thank you, Dr. Harris." Michael shook his head, his eyes meeting hers. "Call me Michael, and you didn't just sit back either. Thank you, Ilera." As the session continued, they both felt a subtle shift, not just in the data being produced by the interface, but in their understanding of each other. The day's events had forged a bond between them, a mutual respect and a shared goal that went beyond their initial reservations. The chapter closed with Michael and Ilera reviewing the day's data, their collaboration now marked not just by necessity, but by a genuine partnership. They were no longer just scientist and subject, but teammates, fighting together against a common threat. The successful connection attempt marked a significant milestone in their journey, bringing Ilera one step closer to survival and perhaps, in time, a lasting cure for her people. Inside Michael's lab, the air was charged with a palpable sense of anticipation and awe. The neurointerface chair, now almost a bridge between two vastly different beings, hummed quietly in the dim light. Ilera, with a look of quiet resolve, prepared to dive deeper into the uncharted territory of her own mind, with Michael as her guide. Michael adjusted the neural interface, fine-tuning the parameters to safely navigate Ilera's consciousness. "We're going to go deeper this time," he explained. "I'll be able to see and interact with your thoughts and memories. It might feel a bit intrusive, but remember, it's crucial for understanding how to stabilize your condition." Ilera nodded, her eyes steady. "I understand, Michael. I trust you." With a deep breath, Ilera closed her eyes, and Michael initiated the connection. The room around them seemed to fade away as the interface synced their neural patterns, transporting them into a shared mental landscape. This realm was a surreal visualization of Ilera's mind, a vast expanse that resembled a floating cityscape under a twilight sky. Structures of thought and memory rose like buildings, each glowing with lights that pulsed in rhythm with Alara's neural activity. Michael, now an avatar within her mind, looked around in wonder. "This is incredible," he murmured, his voice echoing slightly in the expanse of space. Alara appeared beside him, her form shimmering. "This is where my deepest thoughts and memories reside." The disease affects these areas the most. They walked together through the cityscape, approaching a structure that throbbed with a harsh, discordant light. As they neared, Michael could feel a wave of dissonance, a palpable sign of the disease's destruction. "This is where the degeneration is most severe," Alara explained, her voice tinged with sadness. "These memories are fragmenting." Michael reached out, his avatar emitting a soft, stabilizing light. He focused, trying to smooth the discordant pulses. Gradually, the light in the building began to steady, the structure solidifying under his influence. "It's working," Alara said, a note of hope in her voice. "Your presence is stabilizing the degeneration, at least temporarily." Encouraged, they moved deeper into the city, encountering various memories, some bright and vibrant, others shadowed and fading. They witnessed a memory of Alara's childhood on Valeria, her laughter echoing around them as they watched a younger version of her playing in a luminous field under strange, starry skies. As they ventured further, they encountered a darker area, an ominous cloud that swirled menacingly. This was the core of her fear, a visual representation of her mortality and the potential failure of their mission. "We need to face this," Alara said, determination stealing her features. Together, they approached the cloud. Michael extended his influence, his avatar shining brightly as he tried to dispel the darkness. The cloud resisted, pulses of shadow clashing with his light, but slowly, it began to dissipate, revealing glimpses of clear, calm spaces beyond. As the darkness cleared, Alara smiled, a sense of relief washing over her. "You're doing it, Michael. This is more than I hoped for." They spent what felt like hours in her mind, Michael learning to understand the intricacies of her condition, each finding solace in the other's company. The connection grew stronger, a bond forming not just in the mind, but emotionally, bridging their differences and uniting them in their common struggle. When they finally disengaged from the interface, they found themselves back in the lab, the real world feeling momentarily less vivid than the one they had just left. They were silent for a moment, processing the journey they had shared. "That was more intense than I expected," Michael admitted, rubbing his temples lightly. Alara reached out, her hand briefly touching his. "And yet, it was necessary. You've seen my fears, my hopes. I feel less alone in this now." As they prepared to end the day, the data from the session provided them with invaluable insights into the progression of Alara's disease and potential new avenues for treatment. More importantly, it had changed the nature of their relationship, transforming them from mere allies into true partners in this fight for her life. The early morning light filtered softly through the high windows of the lab, casting long shadows over the sleek, metallic surfaces of the equipment. Michael and Alara were reviewing the data from their previous session when the calm was shattered by the shrill sound of the security alarm. Michael sprang into action, pulling up the surveillance feeds on one of the large monitors. The screen flickered to life, revealing a group of rogue Valerian militants converging on the building's main entrance. They were a renegade faction opposed to the Earth-Valerian Alliance, notorious for their radical actions. "Looks like we've got company," Michael said grimly, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. "This faction doesn't usually strike in broad daylight. They must be desperate." Alara stood beside him, her expression resolute. "They want to end the cooperation between our species. My healing, it's a symbol of our alliance's success. They see it as a threat." Without wasting another moment, Michael activated the lab's defense protocols. A series of thick, steel shutters began descending over the windows and doors, sealing them inside. "We'll be safe here for a while, but we can't stay under siege. We need to get out and call for help." Ilera nodded, her gaze fixed on the screen showing the militants setting up outside. "There's an old service tunnel that runs under this facility. It's not on the official blueprints. We could escape through there." Michael looked at her, impressed. "Lead the way." They quickly gathered essential equipment, including a portable version of the neural interface, and headed to a concealed door at the back of the lab. Ilera pressed a sequence of numbers on a hidden keypad, and the door slid open, revealing a dark, narrow passage. They entered, and the door closed silently behind them, plunging them into darkness. Using their mobile devices as torches, they navigated the damp, echoey tunnel. The sound of their footsteps bounced off the concrete walls, a steady reminder of their precarious situation. As they moved, Michael kept an eye on his device, monitoring the militants' movements through the lab's remaining active security cameras. "They're searching for us," he whispered, tension lining his voice. "Not much time before they figure out we're not there." Ilera led them through a maze of underground corridors until they reached an old utility exit that opened into an alleyway. The air was crisp, and the city's sounds were a stark contrast to the silence of the tunnel. Once outside, they didn't stop to catch their breath. They moved quickly through the back streets, avoiding the main roads where the militants might expect them to emerge. Every so often, Michael glanced back, making sure they weren't being followed. Their escape led them to a secluded safe house that Michael used for emergencies. Inside, they secured the door and took a moment to regroup. Michael contacted his colleagues at the security forces, explaining the situation and requesting immediate assistance. "We should be safe here until help arrives," Michael assured Ilera, who was checking the integrity of the portable neural interface. "We can continue our work in the meantime. Every moment is crucial." Ilera nodded, setting up the device. "Let's keep going. We can't afford to lose any progress." As they resumed their work, the bond between them strengthened, forged in the fires of adversity. They were no longer just collaborators, but comrades, fighting not just for Ilera's life, but for the hope of peace between their peoples. The chapter concluded with the sound of sirens in the distance, a sign that help was on the way. Michael and Ilera shared a look of relief mixed with determination. The battle was far from over, but together, they were ready to face whatever challenges came next. The safe house was a small, nondescript building tucked away in an older part of the city, its worn facade blending seamlessly with its surroundings. Inside, Michael and Ilera continued their work amidst the quiet hum of the portable neural interface. The device cast a soft glow in the dimly lit room, illuminating their focused faces as they delved deeper into the synchronization process. Michael adjusted the settings on the interface, fine-tuning it based on the insights gained from their previous sessions. "We're getting closer," he murmured, his eyes scanning the complex data on the screen. "Your neural patterns are starting to align more consistently with the interface. It's like your system is finally learning to accept the connection." Ilera watched the readings, a mix of hope and apprehension in her expression. "This is further than we've ever gone before. I can feel a difference, Michael. It's like a fog lifting from my mind." As they worked, the room was suddenly filled with the sound of the door being forcefully opened. They turned in shock to see David, one of Michael's trusted colleagues, standing in the doorway with a group of armed men. David's face was hard and unyielding, a stark contrast to the friendly colleague Michael knew. "Michael, I'm sorry, but I can't let you continue," David said, his voice steady but filled with regret. "This alliance, it's not the way." Michael stood up, anger and disbelief coursing through him. "David, what are you doing? You know what's at stake here." David shook his head, his expression torn. "I do, and it's why I'm doing this. I've joined the others who believe the alliance is a mistake. We can't depend on the Valerians. It's better to cut ties now." Before Michael could respond, David motioned to his men, who moved forward and restrained both Michael and Ilera. They were efficient and cold, clearly not interested in negotiation. Ilara struggled against her captors, her eyes filled with betrayal. David, why? We were making progress. You've seen it yourself. David avoided her gaze, his decision weighing heavily on him. I'm sorry, Ilara. Truly, I am. But this is bigger than any of us. The militants quickly dismantled the neural interface and confiscated all related research materials. Michael and Ilara were separated and taken away in different directions, the doors locking behind them with a finality that echoed ominously. In a cold, isolated cell, Michael sat in frustrated silence, his mind racing for solutions. The betrayal cut deep, but his primary concern was for Ilara and their unfinished work. He knew he had to act fast. Meanwhile, Ilara was held in a separate part of the facility, her condition worsening without the treatment. The symptoms she had managed to keep at bay were now creeping back, each moment, without the neural interface, bringing her closer to the edge of survival. Using his extensive knowledge of technology and a small overlooked tool he had managed to conceal, Michael worked quickly to disable the lock on his cell door. His heart pounded as he stepped into the dimly lit hallway, alert for any sign of guards. He made his way stealthily through the facility, using every bit of his training and experience to avoid detection. His single focus: find Ilara and escape. After what felt like an eternity, he found her, weak and barely conscious in her cell. Ilara, he whispered, rushing to her side. Hold on, we're not done yet. With Ilara leaning heavily on him, they navigated the corridors, evading patrols and security measures. The facility was a maze, but Michael's determination was unwavering. As they reached the exit, the first light of dawn cast long shadows around them, a symbol of hope amidst the darkness. They stepped out into the cool morning air, free but not safe, ready to fight for their survival and for the future they believed in. Dawn broke over the city, casting a pale light on the streets that Michael and Ilara navigated cautiously. Their escape from the facility was just the beginning, and the real challenge lay ahead. With Ilara's condition deteriorating and their enemies on high alert, they needed a safe place to reestablish the neural connection and complete their work. Michael led Ilara to an abandoned warehouse he had used in the past for off-the-grid projects. Inside, amidst dust-covered machinery and old tech parts, was the backup equipment he had stashed away for emergencies. We can set up here, Michael said, helping Ilara to a makeshift seat. It's not ideal, but it'll have to do. As Michael set up the rudimentary neural interface, Ilara's breathing became labored, her strength fading with each passing minute. I don't have much time left, Michael, she whispered, her voice weak but determined. Whatever happens, you need to finish the synchronization process. It's not just about me anymore. Michael nodded, his hands steady as he connected the equipment. I'm not giving up on you, Ilara. We're going to fix this together. The equipment whirred to life, and they began the final connection. Michael monitored the interface closely, adjusting the settings continuously to adapt to Ilara's fluctuating neural patterns. The room filled with a tense silence, broken only by the soft hum of the machinery and Ilara's shallow breaths. As the connection deepened, Michael could see the strain on Ilara's face easing, her body relaxing as the neural pathways began to align. Suddenly, the screen showed a surge of activity, a sign that the connection was stabilizing at last. We're almost there, Michael said, his voice filled with a mix of hope and urgency. Just hold on a little longer. Ilara nodded, her eyes closing as she concentrated on maintaining the connection. In that moment, a profound change occurred. The space around them seemed to shimmer softly, and Michael felt an overwhelming sense of clarity and connection. It was as if their minds had merged, sharing thoughts, emotions, and memories, their consciousness intertwined. When the process was complete, Ilara slowly opened her eyes, a new vitality visible in her gaze. Michael, she said, her voice clear and strong. It worked. I can feel it. The degeneration has stopped. Michael let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding, relief washing over him. They had done it. Not only had they cured her, But they had also created a bond that went beyond any human or Valerian had ever experienced. But their victory was short-lived. The sounds of approaching vehicles signaled that their location had been discovered. Michael looked at Alara, determination set in his features. "We need to leave, now. We can't let them take this away from us." Together, they destroyed the makeshift lab, erasing any trace of their work that could be used against them. With Alara's newfound strength, they escaped just as the first agents stormed into the warehouse. In the days that followed, Michael and Alara remained in hiding, moving from one safe location to another. They used their deep connection to continue their research, developing a cure that could be shared safely without the risk of it being weaponized. Their breakthrough became a turning point in human-Valerian relations. With the cure as a symbol of peace and cooperation, the factions that had once sought to dismantle the Alliance now found themselves on the wrong side of history. Epilogue. Months later, Michael and Alara stood before a gathering of both human and Valerian leaders, presenting their joint discovery and the story of their incredible journey. The project was hailed as a testament to the potential of unity and the strength of diversity. Alara looked at Michael, gratitude and affection in her eyes. "We did more than survive," she said. "We changed the future." Michael smiled, his hand finding hers. "Together," he replied, "their stories spread across the galaxies, a beacon of hope and a reminder that sometimes the greatest discoveries come from the deepest connections."